How vulnerable is the Philippines, especially when it comes to the Delta variant?
Well, what we're seeing is that, for Philippines, Southeast Asian neighbours, for example, Indonesia, they have proven very vulnerable, and they're really struggling to contain the Delta variant. And so, it would seem like the Philippines is particularly vulnerable to that strain at the moment. And so it's good news that the Philippines has been able to contain their infections at the moment. But at the same time, I mean, the Philippines is still dealing with daily cases of around 4,000, which is quite significant. And given the fact that social distancing measures in Philippines have eased a little bit, that does increase the vulnerability of the Philippines to then inheriting that Delta strain.
Now, given all that, how will those factors at least color your growth prospects for the country this year?
Okay, so when we started out this year, we expected that the Philippines was going to grow about 5.3%. So GDP growth was going to hit 5.3%. But then we downwardly revised that to 4.9% after the Philippines experienced that massive surge in cases in early April, where daily infections were hitting 10,000. And so what we're seeing is the Philippines is struggling to contain localized infections, just like other economies in the region are as well. And until we see a more significant vaccine rollout that will make economies less vulnerable to infection outbreaks, then that's really going to keep these economies underperforming, and Philippines definitely falls into that category.
Now, of course, you have authorities here at least predicting or at least projecting a maskless Christmas this year. Would you say that's something that we can look forward to, or at least hold off on that ambition at least for the year?
I would say that a maskless Christmas does seem optimistic in the Philippines, but I would also say that a maskless Christmas does seem optimistic for the region as well, because we are seeing that COVID is just a difficult thing to contain. And while, in one breath, it might seem like governments are able to contain infections, in the next breath, we then do see a spike in localized infections. So, what it does seem like prudence is the best path forward. And so I think we're going to be quite some while away before it seems like a good idea to no longer need those precautionary measures like a mask in order to contain the virus.